Hey, welcome back. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is Empire Builders, the rise and fall of civilizations. You know, living in New York, you see all kinds of vessels. The Staten Island Ferry, massive container ships out in the harbor, sleek private yachts. But I was walking past a museum the other day, and I saw a model of a different kind of ship entirely. It was long, open, with a single, square sail and oars along its sides. A Viking Longship. And it got me thinking. We remember these ships for one thing, right? Raiding. The sudden, terrifying appearance off a misty coast. But what if I told you that this ship, this elegant, deadly piece of technology, wasn't just a weapon of plunder? It was, in fact, the beating heart of an entire economic revolution. That the Vikings didn't just raid their way to notoriety. They traded, colonized, and built empires, all because of a boat. And that journey, from raiders to kings, is the story of how a society built an economy on the backbone of a longship. So let's set the scene. It's the late 8th century in Scandinavia. The climate's a bit warmer, populations are growing, but good farmland is scarce. Inheritance customs mean younger sons are looking at a life with very little land, very little status. The social pressure is building. And then, you have this technological marvel, the longship. It was shallow drafted, meaning it could sail in just 3 feet of water. It could cross the open, terrifying North Atlantic, but also glide silently up a river or be dragged overland between waterways. It was fast, flexible, and it turned the sea from a barrier into a highway. For those ambitious younger sons, the world suddenly opened up. The first recorded raid, at Lindisfarne in 793, was a shock to Christendom. But think about it from the Viking perspective. That monastery was a soft, undefended target, packed with silver, gold, and precious manuscripts. It wasn't just an act of barbarism. It was a brutally logical economic venture. The longship was the startup vehicle, and the raid was the initial, explosive funding round. But you don't build a lasting economy on smash and grabs alone. And the Vikings were far too smart for that. This is where the story deepens. Those same longships that carried raiders west began to point their prows in other directions. East, down the rivers of Russia, all the way to the Black Sea and Constantinople. This wasn't raiding. This was trade on a continental scale. They carried furs from the north, amber from the Baltic, and slaves captured in war. And in return, they brought back something that would reshape their homeland. Islamic silver dirhams, Byzantine silks, and glass. Massive hoards of this silver have been found all over Scandinavia. It became their capital, their currency. Towns like Hedeby in Denmark and Birka in Sweden exploded as commercial hubs. The longship evolved too. The Nar, a broader, deeper cargo ship, was developed for these bulk trading journeys. So within a generation or two, the Viking economy had 2 powerful engines: the violent extraction of wealth from the west and the sophisticated, mercantile exchange with the East. They were hedge funds and shipping magnates all rolled into one. And this accumulated wealth and maritime power had to go somewhere. It funded the most audacious phase of all, not raiding, not trading, but empire building. The longship allowed for sustained, long-distance colonization. Think about the logistics of settling Iceland, then Greenland, and even making landfall in Newfoundland. That's not a raiding party. That's a population transfer, a deliberate expansion of the Norse world. And in places like England and France, the game changed completely. Great armies, transported and supplied by fleets of longships, began to conquer and hold territory. The Danelaw in England wasn't a raided zone. It was a settled, governed Norse kingdom. And in Normandy, literally, the land of the Northmen, the Viking leader Rollo did something extraordinary. He swore fealty to the Frankish king, became a duke, and his descendants would go on to conquer England and southern Italy. The ultimate pivot, from outsider raider to insider king. The longship brought them to the door, but the wealth and people it sustained allowed them to kick that door down and move in for good. It's this transition that I find so fascinating as someone who thinks about systems and innovation. The longship was the platform. It was the physical infrastructure that enabled every single one of their ventures. But the real empire building wasn't in the ship's design. It was in the Viking ability to pivot its use. They saw the same tool as a raiding craft, a trading vessel, a troop transport, and a colonist's ark. They adapted their entire economic model based on opportunity and resistance. Where they met weak, fragmented defenses, they raided. Where they met powerful, rich empires like the Byzantines or the Abbasids, they traded. And where they found fertile, sparsely populated land, they settled. There's a ruthless flexibility there that's awe-inspiring. They weren't bound by a single identity. They were whatever the situation demanded. Pirates, merchants, explorers, farmers, or kings. The longship economy was, at its core, an economy of opportunism, powered by the greatest maritime technology of its age. So the next time you picture a Viking, I want you to see more than the horned helmet. A myth, by the way. See a sophisticated economic actor. See a young man in Norway, looking at a narrow fjord and a narrower future, who builds a ship that turns the entire known world into his marketplace and his battlefield. The longship was their railroad, their container ship, their internet. It shrank the world and expanded their possibilities beyond anyone's imagination. They started by taking wealth, and they ended by creating kingdoms. They remind us that the tools we build don't define a single destiny. They open a spectrum of possibilities, and our greatness, or our infamy, lies in how we choose to wield them. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Empire Builders. If you enjoyed this journey from the fjords to foreign thrones, please do share the show with a friend. It truly helps us grow. This is Ibnul J. Farabi for Light Knot Studios. You can find more of our narrative history documentaries at lightknotstudios.com. Until next time, keep building.